Thank you all for joining us. We're going to start with a little brief opening remarks to say why we're here, hopefully. I can see by visual examination, we have a quorum of the board. We have everyone present besides Director Dave Whitman, who is absent tonight. My name is Karen Morgan. For those of you who don't know me, water board districts are famously unknown, so don't be afraid that you don't know. But I appreciate you coming out and wanting to know what is going on. This is an informational kind of session designed for you so that you know what is going on. So I look forward to hearing all of your questions in future. I'm going to ask the board members to introduce themselves and go from there. Would you like to start?
Good evening, I'm Roger Whitdale, one of the 5 board members. I'm actually vice president of the board, and Director Morgan here is the president. And I sure appreciate everybody showing up this evening. We do look forward to hearing your questions and concerns, and we're here to answer them as best we can. And I want to apologize first off by saying I'm sorry I directed a bunch of you to the lunchroom, but I figured that out. But either way, thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Oh, this works.
I'm Philip Hardinger. I'm the treasurer of water service district.
Yeah, that's
I'm Mark Martinez. I've been on the board for a year. I am a Colorado native. I have a huge interest in the resources that Colorado presents to its residents, and I enjoy being on the board, and I'm glad to see such a large turnout for it. This is very, very exciting.
I agree, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dylan Woods. I'm not a director. I'm general counsel of the district.
Thank you all. If you feel comfortable, it's now time to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Have a fancy mic tonight. I don't usually have that. Green Mountain is concerned about the zoning changes. We have been watching what is going on throughout the process, and we have some answers, we have more questions. So this is just a presentation to tell you where we're at. And we'll go from there. Can I have the next slide? The drive for the zoning changes is to increase density. There are a lot of details in that. People fight over the size of the building, the height of the building, the setbacks on your plot. All of that is not something we are concerned with. Density is more people, more buildings, and that means we need more pipe capacity. We need more water, we need more sewer. We don't always have that. Green Mountain has been at maximum build out, 98% build out for decades. We have been doing little infills, projects here and there. We just don't have the pipe capacity. We didn't anticipate needing the pipe capacity. So the pipes were designed, they're as full as they were designed to be. Some pipes are already too full because we have allowed too much infill and too much density. That's where we're at. That's the problem. We get a lot of questions about where are we going to get the water? Actually, I can't answer that question. and I don't need to answer that question. I literally cannot answer the question. Green Mountain is not a water supplier, we are a water distributor. We get our water from Denver Water. Denver Water, when I started on the board in 2020, I met with Denver Water, a couple board members did, and we got educated. They said, and we asked them, they said, we have enough water for everybody, everywhere, all the time. We don't need to be concerned about them. That doesn't sound right. So we can, and this was in 2020, that's before all the zoning. And so we could, what's the word? 10 times the density, increase the density by 10 times, all throughout Lakewood, all throughout the district, and you wouldn't have a problem. So no problem. We'll just get the water. I literally cannot answer that. That's not our responsibility. What I do know is one, that doesn't make sense to me. And two, it still needs pipes to transport. That's what Green Mountain does. That's what all of your water districts, if you're not within Green Mountain, that's what they do. We're distributors of Denver Water. Recently, this slide came out from the American Water Works Association asking about the long-term water needs. And what was interesting about this is they've got it broken down into how prepared are you? Not at all to fully prepared to address long-term water needs. And the amount of districts that are fully prepared nationwide, the amount of districts that are fully prepared increased 10% in the last year. That sounds more like a wake-up call than any change in water supply. It's all of a sudden somebody is realizing, oh, we can't increase by 10. Next slide, please. Lakewood zoning currently is limited by single family use. The new zoning will be limited by building code. So that is how many people can fit by occupancy rate into your house. We did some rough calculations. What we are thinking is that means one person per 75 square feet of occupancy. So in a 2,000 square foot house, that means you can fit 27 people in there. The odds of that happening, I don't know. If your guess is as good as mine. I have the information, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if Lakewood knows what that means. They have not done any studies. They have not done me. But I do know that they have enabled all of those, the zoning code to align here. So for example, Denver had problems a few years ago with this kind of zoning because it could turn, they had people living in paths in the basement, and you could put 30 people in your basement. That's what this code does. And they specifically allow for your property, any single family home, to be a group home, to be a homeless shelter, to have any use with all of those people. 93% of our customers, of our caps, are single family homes. So if we increased the density, we put people into those homes, even just 2%, that's drastically going to increase the needed pipes in our district. The other problem is that they're allowing commercial uses in residential areas. That's not so much of a problem. If we would know what's going on, we could probably address it. But commercial caps are different. We have to go through different safety factors than residential caps. So it's not just easy to say that we can, you know, you can turn your house into a business overnight. Next slide, please. This is one example of a residential housing change. And I just brought this up from the zoning code to show that this is possible. I don't know what they're saying today, but at the time of the zoning code passage, our counselors were telling people it's not likely that your house will change, the density will change, your neighborhoods will not change. It's just not likely to happen. Who's going to do that? Who's gonna tear down a house to put in an apartment? It's just too expensive. People heard the no, that will not happen, and did not hear the not like per code, that can't happen, and that's why we have to be concerned. We can't deal with maybes. We have to assume that those buildings will have people in it, can have people in it to meet fire hydrant regulations and such. Next slide, please. So from our point of view, this zoning is, we have not planned for infrastructure. We do not have the capacity for more homes or more people in those homes, both of which are high density and allowed. They are removing the green space, thinking that that will allow for more water. We're not going to be irrigating lawns. We will have more water. We'll repurpose. That does not take into consideration the increased sewer needs now for all those people. We know our district and we know pipes and capacities. And I don't know how many of you are Lakewood customers. Lakewood has their own set of water and sewer customers. Northeast Lakewood, I want to say, anybody correct me on that? Fully contracted out. They don't have in-house help on this. I mean, they'll get answers from their consultants, but we know how to do this. That's our job. So that's where. Next slide. We've been thinking a lot. I have been thinking a lot. The board has considered this discouraging green spaces. If you think about your yard, it gets a lot of attention because it's a waste of water. We don't like green yards, especially, but even xeriscaping is a waste when you can put a building on it, according to some people. I view that the water industry will tell you that yards are buffers for drought years. I don't know if you notice how dry it's been this year, but in those years, that's when you sometimes necessarily sacrifice the lawn and you can't use it because you're using the water for people. Now, what happens if you are using the water for people and you don't have a lawn to sacrifice? It's going to be tougher. Now, Lakewood did a presentation in 2021 on water in Lakewood, and they had a expert come in and say, we have done a fantastic job. People have done a fantastic job of getting local toilet and conservation measures. Am I speaking loudly enough? I'm not getting this right. But that means that our system is hardened. In drought years, it will be a problem. What do you do if you've already taken all the excess out of the system? There's no slack to sacrifice. You will be sacrificing what you consider your basic needs, because that was in 2021. Again, prior to all of this, Lakewood had that information and they knew it. And just from an environmental standpoint, I just want to put in a plug that the biodiversity in your yard is necessary to maintain a healthy environment. When we don't have that, all of the bugs and the birds and the squirrels and all of that urban, suburban life, I mean, that's from the ground up. If you don't have that, that's why you do have the urban kind of, I mean, it's gross to say, but you have the urban wildlife with the cockroaches and rats. I like my little yard. Next slide, please. The question is, how are we going to fund these changes? Making the change is going to be hard because we don't know when and where we're going to change by capacity. And because of that, we don't know when and where to charge appropriately. This zoning is an unfunded mandate. They're telling us we're going to need more pipe capacity. They're not providing the funds to do it. It's unfunded. So then where is that going to come from? In the case where there's a developer coming in, an investor coming in, and they decide to spray the house and put up fourplex or an increased density, that will require a building permit. And in those cases, the new permits and the change of use, that will come to the water district and we will have to say whether or not we have capacity. In those cases, for Green Mountain, what we do is commission a study and we look at your property and we say, does this have the necessary pipe capacity from point A all the way to where it discharges our district, point B? Do we have pipe capacity all the way through that flow? And you will have to pay for that study. And then if we need upgrades, you will have to, and that has been common practice for a long time. The problem with the new zoning is that there's not all going to be noticed like that, not all going to be permitted. So, and I'm getting ahead of myself. If we can do the next slide, please. If all you do is put more people in there, like the pallets in the basement kind of scenario, or if you, I don't know if you, I know of properties around that have kind of bypassed the rules. They know the rules. So, for example, to have an ADU on your property, an accessory dwelling unit, that you will need a new tap. You will need a permit. You will need a new tap. You will need to pay for those, and they're very expensive. And there are definitions for what an ADU is. So if you can connect to the building, the existing building, if you don't have separate entryways, if you can maneuver the ADU so that it doesn't meet one of those criteria that defines what an ADU is, you don't have to pay any of that. So you get the free tap, you will have all of the other density, but you can bypass all of the funding for it. This is a problem in the district too. So if you have a house and you're going to change the use to something else, we have rules for that. They have been in place for a long time. They have been protecting the district from exactly this situation for a while. But because Lakewood is doing this blanket zoning for everyone, everywhere at the same time, we cannot have a change of use form. It's not. They are doing it on behalf of the property owners. So we don't have notice that there will be increased usage. We don't have a mechanism to study what is needed for specific problems. We don't have funding for any of that. That also means that in order to figure this out, we are in an unfortunate situation of considering whether or not we need to take on a new enforcement rule and what that would even look like. How are we supposed to know who to charge and when, unless we can go, I don't know, that's where we're at, we have no idea. Next slide. So we caught these changes, and when Lakewood was passing the comprehensive plan, Lakewood will say they have been researching and talking about the zoning changes for years, and they really know it's been thorough and it's been studied. And really what they did is they had a 2-year process for a comprehensive plan where people talked about how they wanted affordable housing. That's completely different from the zoning plan that they contracted out when they said, I just want high density, somebody else will write it, and then they enable the details later. When that comprehensive plan was passed, Lakewood took advantage of state law that said you need to consult with your water district and have adequate water planning. So we sent this mediation, the remedy for that was to go into mediation and talk it over, see if you can find out a solution here. Lakewood denied our request. We are planning, the district is doing a study of this on our own. There is no study from Lakewood to say how many new houses they expect, how many new people they expect, where they expect any of these things. None of that data exists. We can't rely on anything from data from Lakewood. So we're going to have to do this. Just the things that follow my mind. We just did a master plan, which you need to do every 20 years. Typically, your development doesn't change that much. We just completed our master plan 21. I'll get that wrong. I'll be able to 2021. Josh Stanley in the back is our district manager. We didn't get him on introductions. Thank you, Mr. Stanley. That cost $50,000. They're expensive. The one that we are planning to do in order to figure out what is going on with the zoning is going to be 5 times that. We're anticipating $250,000. You will pay for that. We have not heard of any other solutions. We have not heard from any other districts that are following this. We have heard from other districts that do have capacity problems. We're not alone. We're just, we're not alone in the problem.
And who can reject?
Little rejected what?
Rejected that they had a plan that was that they.
The zoning. You're right. Yeah. Our district has now sued Lakewood over this because we have a court injunction. If they won't stop it, we're asking for them to stop it until we can find a solution. So that's where it got to the Jefferson County Court. That will be another cost, but these are, if you think about that first slide where I said we went from 1 person, normal household size was about 3 people. If that's what it was, 1970, now it's 2.5, 3.5 to 2.5, drop 1 person. They're talking about increasing it to 27 potentially. Again, even just a small fraction of that, we have $100 million more of infrastructure. So these are millions of dollars of needed upgrades that we're going to have. So that's why it's important. That's why we're following up on the lawsuit. That's why hopefully we will listen at some point and address our concerns. So next, is there something else? The complaint from the lawsuit kind of, that was, these are the legal words for everything we have just talked about, which sound great. We are saying we need the capacity exceeds the design parameters. We are being burdened with an unfunded mandate. We are incurring potential liability for service failures. These things are necessary to point out according to state law, and you will hear that Lakewood is saying we have to do these zoning things. We have to per state law. If we don't do them, we'll be against state law. Well, state law specifically preserves their right to say we can't make those changes due to health and safety factors, such as our pipes being too, such as we can't provide adequate water. We don't have the long-term planning. So the wastewater and water quality standards can be used and are written into state law. We have basis here. We are asking the court to declare the zoning invalid and unenforced. If you haven't found our website yet, you can contact us there. We have a board email. There's my specific email. Anybody who wants to get in touch with us. We have a fabulous staff who is always answering questions for people on this and other topics. Like I said, Mr. Stanley is here. He can answer anything else. So with that, I think I'm going to open it up to questions and see where we're at, and we'll give the rest of the board a chance. Oh. Yes, and I meant to add, I told Roger I was gonna let him speak. Since there are some of you here, I'm gonna pass it over to Roger, and I'll pass it over to Roger. If those of you who have not heard, we passed a resolution about this zoning initiative.
Again, thanks everybody for showing up this evening. We appreciate it. I wanted to take a moment to thank the petitioners. I don't know if we have any in the audience, but the board voted on this position unanimously, which is a little bit unusual for us. We're all in favor of our current position. And we'd like any petitioners in here to stand up and recognize. I don't see anybody. A couple in the back. My wife and I were at King Supers. We ran into a couple of you working very hard in the parking lot at night, and it doesn't go unrecognized. Very much appreciated. Thank you. So kind of two quick thoughts. In my official capacity as board member, I was elected to this position and it was surprisingly competitive. But I came to this with the idea that this is my second term, to serve the constituents as best I could. We are duty bound by charter with the state of Colorado to provide water. But we're only required to do that in an economical, reasonably prudent fashion. As Director Morgan, or rather Karen, was outlining, for us to increase capacity at this time is astronomically expensive. I can't quote the prices right off the top of my head, but I'm sure a mile or two of new pipe runs into millions of dollars. So we're talking about a lot of money here. Another thing the board is aware of is we don't want to deprive anybody of their property rights. What we're arguing here are some of the things Karen talked about, and it's mostly capacity issues. There are other issues that are arising as we speak, and that's the current drought conditions. And the board has talked about this in recent meetings. We don't know how it's going to manifest itself this summer, but it's looking bleak. And as Karen had mentioned earlier, we don't have much control over the supply of water. We'll be at the mercy of Denver Water because that's where we purchase our resources. But densification, increasing the number of people in the district making demands on our water, to me personally doesn't look very feasible at the moment. Then my second point that I was thinking about sitting here is, on a personal level, I'm new to this district. I moved here in 2002. I was raised in Aurora. I raised my children in Aurora. I came to Lakewood because I admired the quality of life here. Green Mountain, Hayden, relatively wide open streets, nice lots, nice homes, nice neighborhoods. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like if some of my neighbors triple their occupancy for renters or an auxiliary dwelling unit or whatever that may be. I think it's going to damage our quality of life here. That's not an issue I can take officially as a board member, but I'm just telling you personally as a resident, I would like to preserve the quality of life that attracted me and my family to Lakewood. So I appreciate your support this evening going up, and I hope you all eventually vote the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brett. I meant to do that and I didn't write it down. See what happens if I don't write things down. But I also know that there's a bunch of you who didn't stand up and we're working hard. So thank you all for working hard. If you have questions, would you, we can raise your hand, but basically we're just going to have you come up to the mic and speak so that we can hear. And then if any more, I'm going to stand here so I can see, but if anybody would like to answer the questions, just signal so that I don't start talking over you too. Okay, would anybody have questions?
Well, my question is, when did this zoning take place? Is it already in effect? Or is it to be done later? What's the status of when this zoning that the city wants to do? When has it started or is it to start at some point?
The effective date is being determined by the vote. It is now under special election because of the referendum, which is why we said thank you to everybody who worked so hard on that, because it gives us a little bit of breathing room and some time. So there's a special election set for April 7th. Depending on how that goes, is when the new zoning will take effect.
Oh, and it's not a detective. Terminated. We have
Alternate, so please raise your hand. We'll get you in the queue. I don't see anybody immediately. Sam, will you let me know? You see me? Okay.
Can you do that again? Jesse will be picking that up. Say that again for people on.
If people online would like to raise their hand and make a comment or question, please do that. We'll alternate you in here. The last question was if the zoning Lakewood wide or district wide, and it'll be Lakewood wide, so it's all on. You want?
I'm Richard Bennett, I live in the district. Lakewood is served, as I understand it, by 28 different water districts at the moment. Presumably those districts have similar constraints, what we have in Greenville. So just out of curiosity, how many of those districts have joined the lawsuit, filed letters of objection with the city council, or just sort of generally told you guys that they were really proud of what you did?
Anybody else want to? As I said before, there's two distinct issues that you're talking about there. One is how many of them have a problem. One of them is how many have got on top of it to file legal objections. I will tell you that there are a lot of small districts, like I said, some of them are fully contracted. So this is kind of outside the scope of possibilities for some of the districts, especially the smaller ones. Some of them, I also know, Lakewood's a scary entity. Has anybody been living here long enough to try and buck Lakewood and or have heard the tales of lawsuits against Lakewood? White Fence Farm comes to mind. So there are people, we are fighting the best we can because I think long term this will be save the district money. If we could get it stopped, we could get it slowed. But I am telling you, nobody else has joined, and actually we have not asked anybody to join our lawsuit. So, but no, nobody else has joined for whatever those reasons.
Have they expressed opposition?
I don't believe anybody has taken positions. I do know we're all dealing with how we're going to deal with this. We're trying to ask the questions of how. The pipe capacity is an issue for several other districts, and that has come up. We have found, because we've been fighting, Lakewood has raised state legislation because they had concerns on tap fees that Green Mountain was implementing. So we've got a thorough background into some of the issues the other districts are facing, and it's a lot the issue.
Do they know it?
Yes.
Yeah. They don't care.
Well, again, how likely are you to sue Lakewood over something that you think that is wrong? There's a lot of that. How many people in Lakewood object to the zoning in general? One person stepped up and started that referendum. And we wouldn't be even, we would be having this discussion about the lawsuit, but there wouldn't be a whole lot of people knowing if that one person out of the entire population of Lakewood stepped up and started it off, you know. And he's had a lot of support. There's been a lot of support. John Croce started it. And Regina has really kicked it off. And a lot of people with everything. So that's why I say it has been a team effort, but you gotta get it going and for lawsuit purposes. One of the other things was that we had to hit the deadlines. So we had I didn't remember, 90 days after the comprehensive plan was passed. And we only did that thanks to a resident from another district who was telling me about possibilities. We had been looking for what can we do, what can we do? So we were late to the game on that too. We made it. We have the wonderful Cody Woods team on our side and they pulled it all together. But we jumped on it. I'll leave it at that. That's how that.
Can you give us any more information about the ballot that I assume all registered voters will receive to be tabulated after, is it April the 8th?
Oh,
Yeah.
I really can't say too much. One, I do believe, am I correct that there's a sample ballot on Lakewood? The Lakewood city site. So do you have more information on that? Would you can I turn it over to you?
This is a question because I have consolidated mutual. And the city has repeatedly said consolidated mutual is like, no problem, we can handle this. We live in old neighborhoods, we have no sidewalks, we have ditches, we have all that sort of thing. So I don't really understand how does consolidated mutual, how are they able to make that statement? That's a question. I do because I don't understand.
I wish I could answer it all or consolidated. I don't have an answer. Consolidated, I know supplies, water. We have well, Tara, did you want to?
I can tell you, Consolidated Mutual has Consolidated Mutual has some of their water rights, but they also contract with Denver and Weston Water as well. They don't provide any sort of sewer service, so they're just strictly on the distribution side.
So they don't have.
They have pipes, they just don't have sewer.
You're a shareholder.
But
you're a shareholder. Have you done it? Well, you have your shareholder. Speech major stuff. Yeah, when you're a shareholder, and that's a provider. It's service for consolidated. You get a certificate of stock. So you're a shareholder. You have to pay for your shares of stock. And also, so it runs in the morning with many others. So, you know, even if you don't get paid, stock like stockholders, that you do here, people have own stuff. Question. They have small My understanding was that they have two systems, but the smaller system was the reservoir. The big system was underwater. But now they are serving the entire 470 corridor. Oh, that's a different thing. The entire 470 corridor, and they are serving all of those on this smaller portion of water. The math does not add up to me, but I'm not math, so I don't need it to add up. I just have questions. So,
Thank you, Jerry. My name is Dave Garner. None of you ever voted for me on the water board, but I've served twice as the committee when our past presidents left. So I've got some experience going back, not quite as long as Karen, but quite a long time. I have a question for you. But I want to let you know about the Lakewood's drinking water's sanitation situation. Josh will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the numbers are right. We are at for about to exceed capacity. There are two of the three there are three sewer lines that exit Lakewood heading toward Denver. Two of those three are full, or one might be in capacity, very close to. The third one is down Union Boulevard in Alameda, that's east toward Denver. That's a new line that's built, increased in size for the hospital, which and serving the vet center. So that is relatively new. But everything else in Green Mountain Water is incredible, and it's failing at a rate that's better than predicted, but it's failing. Some of the stuff was built in the late 60s, some was built in the 70s. So where the city of Lakewood expects us to tear up all of our streets and put in larger sewer lines all the way down in Alameda to Kimberly, it makes no sense to me. The question I have, though, is really, it's a political one that comes from next door. The accusation was made against Director Morgan that somehow a publication called Lakewood Informer was political motivation and somehow influenced the board in its position. So my question for Director Morgan is, could you explain the relationship between Lakewood Informer and the Green Mountain Water Board? I don't remember what we were serving in the board.
thank you. No, no relation. My name is Karen Morgan. I do serve as president here. I do have a newsletter that goes out for the water board for Green Mountain customers. I also, a couple years ago, started a blog for Lakewood issues called the Lakewood Informer. I try really hard not to make those intersect. I don't post any Green Mountain information on the Informer, even though I really want to be telling everybody about it. So there's no intersection there. But anybody is welcome to send me questions on other subjects. I have different emails. Let me have one before you. Show me first.
I am Joan Poston, and I think some of you have seen me speak like with some council meetings. And one of the things I want to say is I have come here, somebody stood up and said, I've never come to a board meeting, I don't know what they're doing. And I can tell you I've come on a regular basis, and they have always been very kind, given me more than 3 minutes. I mostly to talk about the water for the bit. In the end, some of the stuff that came up made it so that you are not going to be responsible for 1,800 residents on that land at Fort Union. That is not going to be Green Mountain Water. And that water has been, this goes way back. Everybody remember Adam Paul? Everybody remember that Adam Paul not water? Everybody remember the kinds of things that he was so that you can do some of the things that we're seeing today. So I want to say, thank you. I can also say occasionally I write for the Informer. I am never, ever, none of the bias that might be there. When I submit something, it gets published if it's something that she feels is relevant. Once it got turned down. The last thing I'd like to say is thank you so much for coming out, the whole board coming out and making a recommendation to take a stand, because that is a difficult thing to do, especially when you're in some kind of litigation. I agree.
Thank you, Jill. And I will also point out that it is possible for you to ask your water districts, if you're from a different district, to join our action. Is that possible to ask? What would that be?
Yes, it would be feasible for another water district to intervene or join the litigation.
Okay, but it's up to their boards to make that happen.
That would be a policy decision on behalf of what the bodies is.
Okay. So ask your board. Hi, I'm Lori, and I have a question. I would sorry, slow up and yourself. That's and if this changes, it would be up to 27 people for whatever. The water usage. Do you have an idea what how much water is used for lawns? How many flushes per household people? What's used in their sprinkler systems? What's used in their showers? Or is it just more of a global? Many gallons for this and that? You know, actually, thank you for the question. Maybe Josh, and I'd like to ask if you wanted to fill in on the capacity question from before, but the districts have engineers, our calculations are not done really in gallons. Because of things like that question, did you hear the question, Josh?
Yes, I did.
Because of questions like that, we use a standard called an EQR. And what does that stand for? Equivalent.
Basically, a single family.
Equivalent. Go ahead, you explain them. I'll get it.
We gather the average water use, winter water use for your sewer rates. Everywhere, people aren't sprinkling, have irrigation system on, so based off of those numbers is how the sewer rate is calculated. And those numbers average, I think, around 5,000 to 7,000 gallons per month. As far as the capacity portion goes, we're going through that planning right now. We have a sewer master study done. We're going to have a water master study done. Which is going to entail whatever this thing in the zone can potentially create as far as gallons per day requirement for households. A lot of questions right now, but towards the end of 26 minutes. Roughly, there's a lot involved on the sewer. All those calculations. We've really been working on our sewer model to update those numbers so we can run a simulated scenario on infill and infiltration, which means when it rains, water gets into the manhole lid, also comes in from the pipe in the ground. You have people use, and then those really major storms. I think back in 2015 when we had like 5 million gallons get through on metering stations to Metro Water. All of those calculations play into how much pipe capacity is available. From regular daily use to a peak scenario where it's raining really hard, people are home, using water all at the same time. We have to plan to make sure that there's enough room for that sewer to flow downhill and not.
The Senate bill, when you get the money.
Yes, yeah, once we look at stuff, it'll be fun.
I just want to make a comment, not a commitment. Here, I did a comment when you're ready. Okay.
You're ready, bring it on.
Some of you know me, I'm on the Geese. I make a lot of posts on Facebook and stuff like that, that I'm really ticked off about this documentary. And one of the questions that I keep trying to get from this city manager, from our mayor, from the whole crew, is here we're concentrating on this project of you're gonna blow up our community. But what about community that they're not even working on, that they bulldozed over there, you know, by Belmar, down at it looks like crap. Looks horrible, they haven't done anything on that, fill the trees. They're gonna take down the buildings across the street and put up more apartments. We've got water that goes to those things too. Then, of course, they've got the 13th and Wadsworth that sat there for 3 years, not being worked on after 5 different developers went bankrupt. And then they started working on it. It looks good, but there's over 300 units in that. That's 300 units there, let alone having the 27 people that are going to be sitting on in our backyard. That's ridiculous and irresponsible. Irresponsible for our committees, our council, our mayor, the city manager should be fired. But attorney, I think we need to be addressing with the city manager, which I would like to get her fired, with Wendy Strom, I'd like to get her fired, but that whole group, except for one person on city council, one person, Paula, at least stood up with us. The others, I thought they were supposed to be working for us. It's our tax dollars that's paying those guys to be watching out for us, the citizens. And I think we need to get angry about this.
You should.
Thank you.
What we do.
Sorry.
I know you can go all night, Richard, but we'll get back to you if we have time. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Hey there, my name is Laura Lee Sturm. I live down the street. I have one clarifying question. So in what I've read, the impetus behind all this is Governor Polis wanting to push legislation for affordable housing. But in listening to you tonight, and thank you for hosting the session, is that really it seems like the city council sort of jumped the gun and was like, okay, we're gonna pass these sweeping building ordinances. We're not gonna take this to a vote. And my understanding is the impetus was to be in accordance with the state legislation. But in listening to you tonight, our best defense is to say that the infrastructure is not going to support this. And my clarifying question is, if you could just give me the language again, in terms of what the lawsuit is stating. And I'm only asking so that when I put the yard sign up and people ask me about it, I can be better informed on why how they should vote and why.
Sam, can you go back to that slide for the legal basis? We'll bring this up, but all of this is written out on our website. You can see the resolution of support is on the website. And that leans heavily on the legal language. So it lists out all of the state statutes and the whatnots that are, that we're relying on. So you're welcome to take a picture of this for the rule. We're saying that these are health and safety standards that we are trying to uphold, that Lakewood is not. But again, I would urge you to go read that resolution online that has pages of all of it detailed. And that's where we're coming from. If that's clear enough. That's in a nutshell. What's that?
Will you please get on the website?
Yeah. Sure.
It's bring down water, forward, right?
You have something to say?
So that's pretty clean.
It's pretty clean cut. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, so, here, maybe you can help clarify this, because this is the way I look at this. At the state level, they eliminated maximum occupancy based on family stats, which is what it was. Now, so you don't have to be family status, you have. It used to be like, you couldn't have more than 3 unrelated people, right? So they got rid of that at the state level. From 5, whatever. Anyway, what that one part of it, but then Lakewood had to go for gold and take it one step farther and blanket zone the entire city. That's one of the issues. Lakewood did not have to do that because the state did not do that. The state did the occupancy, correct? Yes. The state did the occupancy, elimination of occupancy level, right? But they did not blanket zone the whole city, saying that you can have twice as many houses on the same lot. You can have, instead of one single family, you can have a duplex, you can have a triplex, you can have townhomes. It's all based on square footage and all that kind of stuff. But the city did not have to do that.
Yeah, I don't think the city had to do any of what they're doing.
Forward, right, the trend, and who knows, you do it from that.
But the occupancy level is the
occupancy is really gonna cause us problems, because we won't know who is going in anywhere. And that, I mean, Lakewood had to adopt that as well. That's going into the new zoning. That is where other cities were fighting for these things and for home rule. And Lakewood said, that's not for us. We're not gonna do that. Or the other cities, other 7 jurisdictions said, they're not gonna do that. And Lakewood adopted it. It adopted it everywhere. So yeah, it's a problem. Did that answer you? Did I'm coming back to your Claire's.
Yeah, 2 things on the occupancy. They did say there is a limit for health and safety, like that it can't go right, fire code or something like that. The other thing that I think is misrepresented is we're already in compliance with the state laws. They're sort of leading you to believe that unless this new zoning goes through, we're in trouble. We're not. We're already in compliance. The mayor has even admitted that we're already in compliance with everything the state required. We see it as radical rezoning because it's gone beyond what the state has required. And Lakewood, our council sort of prides themselves on it, that we are going to be the most progressive on, in the Front Range. They are bragging about that. So I think you just need, they're very good at convincing you that it's something that it's really not. We need this desperately. People are leaving. We're losing population. We've closed 20 schools in Jefferson County. Where are all these people coming from that they think we need all this density, all this housing? Affordability, there is nothing in the new zoning that guarantees anything will be affordable. No mandates whatsoever. So we're encouraging people to vote yes, which means you want to repeal all these ordinances. If in fact the no votes win, then the new zoning will become law.
It's already in place.
But it's not, it's not.
Let me come back to, before I forget, there is, before I did not announce comfort breaks, there's a restroom up the stairs. Anybody needs any like that, please help yourself. I'm gonna get Richard since we're.
Thank you. I think I'm the person that put the post on next door that got David's panties in a bunch. The connection between the Green Mountain Water Board and the Lakewood Informer is standing right in front of you. You're the same person that does both things. And it's my impression from what I learned on Nextdoor before my account was suspended last week. For saying that Ramey Johnson isn't always 100% truthful. Is that, where was I? I think the Lakewood Informer did an analysis of the likely, what Karen considers to be the likely consequences of the 2-year-long process that the council went through to develop new zoning codes that made a half step in the general direction of affordable housing. That influenced a lot of people who signed the petition. I mean, I'm curious, how many people signed the petition who had never read the Lakewood Informer? Well, I'm wrong. It's good to know that the issue is that the zoning ordinance is 400 pages long. And when you sign that petition, you're supposed to have stipulated that you had actually read it. Okay, and in the discussion that I've seen on social media indicates that nobody had, I mean, very few people had the remotest clue about what the new zoning allows. And I personally see it as a fairly modest step. Because, I mean, I'm a public policy professional and have been for 30 years. And I understand that regulations don't always lead directly to action. So it could be the case that we allow, say, 4 people to live in a house that used to only allow 3. It doesn't mean that 4 people are suddenly going to move into that house. Because there are larger trends at work. General demographics across the whole country is towards smaller families. So that means that if Green Mountain Water could meet capacity needs 20 years ago, today's families are smaller. The number of new housing units has not increased dramatically, especially after SGI. That's not a Green Mountain Water District problem. Okay, but I'm talking about the area the Green Mountain Water District serves. Not a whole lot of new development taking place here, and at the same time, families are shrinking. So it seems to me that Green Mountain Water District has a lot of deferred maintenance to take care of. There's a lot of crumbling pipes that need to be replaced anyway. And if that has to happen, the minimal consequences of this zoning change, I don't think are more than intolerable.
I think your position, we could argue back and forth all night long. Just a point is one of the biggest issues for me is it is no longer single family housing. So that means you can have unrelated parties. It is no longer a family in a house. It is multiple families because you no longer need to be related.
That's right.
On top of that, they've changed the regulations on what the house can look like. So if you are a longtime resident, you could be staring into not necessarily an apartment building, but your view is now blocked because it's 35 feet from the roof line. And they put it through in 4 separate votes. So when you see your ballot, you need to answer 4 times because there are 4 separate passages to the zoning ordinance, not just one. All 4 have to be voted yes if you want to be against it. No, leaves it the status that they've already agreed to.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Paul Marquez. I live in the 40 Star subdivision down the hill here. I work downtown every day, downtown Denver, Broadway and Colfax, and I see it all. Born and raised in Denver. That's my city. But this is my city now. I've lived here for 35 years in Green Mountain. I was born and raised in Denver. My family still lives in Denver. All of us, I hope. I have a huge family. Anyway, so I wanted to remind people on how many Native people have been here and how long you've been here. It doesn't matter as long as you understand where the water is coming from. Water, our Denver water gets their water from the Middle Fork, the South Platte, and North Fork, the South Platte.
Western slope.
Everything on the western slope, not everything on the western slope, but at the highest peak of over the top of the Continental Divide is pumped into Denver through tunnels. And it comes down Coal Creek, it comes down Bear Creek, it comes down Turkey Creek, it comes down the South Platte River. So once you start to understand how that water gets to Denver and what Denver does with that water, who they sell it to, right? We're getting water from them. So look at a map and see how Denver water gets their water. I'll say a couple of things about Denver. Probably shouldn't say it, but I'll say it anyway. EPA is already looking at what the South Platte River is running through Denver. It's in horrible shape. It's about ready to close down. The mayor, the governor, it's ignored. They don't want to see it. They don't want the EPA coming here and analyzing their water. The Lakewood Gulch is in question already. So when you have overpopulation, you're going to get there. I'm not here to tell you not to overpopulate. I'm not here to that, but I'll give you a couple examples of what causes it. If I can read this, I should put on my glasses. I'll be quick. I'm sorry, we're taking a little bit longer. Overpopulated communities, concerns, overused resources, and environmental health hazards. A complexity of 2 dynamic systems. One is natural space and the other one's livable space. The following list is an example of, and this is what I wrote down. I've been trying to write as many things as I could down at my lunch break at work. So I watched Denver change, and now I'm watching Lakewood change. More utilities, above and beyond, above ground and below surface. More trenches, more bores under the sidewalks, sanitary sewer, residential and commercials, high and low voltage electrical power lines will come. Natural gas, residential and commercial street taps, transportation fuel, gas stations, unnatural residential lighting, and commercial lighting. It'll grow even more. We know it. Hard surfaces and rainwater runoff tanks. We'll look at Buck City, Alberta. Look how much they get charged for taxes for hard surfaces on every roof and every piece of concrete. We don't want that. Delivery trucks, traffic, parking, e-bikes, power stations. I'm not against e-bikes, by the way. Garbage services, more. FedEx trucks, you name them. We had a FedEx truck come by in our neighborhood the other day, and it broke 4 trees. They're so big, they broke 4 of our trees, branches off our trees. And drones in the air, you'll see more of those in the crowded golf courses. Public intoxications, drug use, usage of parks and open spaces. That's okay, as long as we maintain those parks, we can sustain enough people to use the parks.
But once they get over crowding, it's no longer fun, you won't use it. Water lines, and oh well. Vehicles on ice, another thing, or driving practices, and I think I'll just step back right now. But one other thing I wanted to say, if a politician is running for a permanent job for themselves, that's not the politician you want. You want a politician is, if I have to be a one and done politician to get things done and get things changed, I'll be that person. Thank you.
We have Regina has been waiting now.
Okay, hi. Hi, I'm Regina. I want to say thanks for supporting the yes vote to the water board. You're like the only entity group in this entire city that is, and the rest of the groups are not, including our city council. And one thing that I think that hasn't been mentioned yet is that the one thing is, with all this density, where are the high paying jobs to support all these people in Lakewood if we want this to be more a walkable city? Why are we pushing density here? Where's the high paying jobs to support that? That's one thing I wanted to say. And what? Yeah, and why isn't the city doing anything about bringing high paying jobs here if they wanna add all this density here? That's one of my main things. And yeah, thanks for supporting yes vote, and I'm doing a yes vote myself to protect mature tree canopy, neighborhood character, whatever's left of our quality of life here, and stop letting the developers destroy Lakewood. I'm from here for 40 years and I'm utterly sick of it, and I agree with Linda. Get rid of the Kathy Hodgins, get rid of the manager, Travis Parker, our unelected planning director who acts like a zoning czar and he can just do whatever he wants. And for the last 13 years, he has been able to buy out a parkland dedication. I don't know if any of you in here remember the Save Open Space Lakewood petition that Kathy Kentner helped start. But that was also to protect parkland dedication, which the city council just poo-poos. So yeah, I'm very anti-city council, and I think we should have some new faces in here voting to run for city council seats, especially in Ward 1 and 2. And we need some smarter people to step up. So I just want to encourage, if any of y'all know anyone in here who wants to run, anyone would practically be better than what we currently have. And probably anyone in here is smarter than that. Anyway, that's probably saying too much, but that's why I have to say.
Another question up front.
I have a document produced by Lakewood Citizens Alliance. And if anyone would like to take a picture of this in terms of informing, oh, you have lots of them. Oh, good.
There's a lot of flyers that these guys are handing out. My this goes to the back.
If anyone wants to take a picture on your phone of this, I'm here with it. You are welcome.
Can I get back? Well, come back. I wanted to answer. I don't think you had a question, Mr. Bennett. I think it sounded more like you were stating facts, but I did want to come back to some of that information because I will disagree with some of that. And I had, Sam, can I have it back? I'm just ready to talk about it. Because I have heard this talking point from the city before that that we were built for such great big families way back when people were having 20 kids and that's the way it was. So I looked it up, and our size standards, we have decreased by one person. It's not really that big a deal for planning purposes. So show me how to use half a toilet. You still need,
With the number of flushes.
actually, I don't care about the number of flushes. I'm talking about the pipes and the infrastructure. So what I need, no matter how many people use it, is the pipes to carry enough for those people. So if you can show me how to use half a toilet, I'll show you how that, I can't. Okay.
Smaller than they were 20 years ago.
So the other point, I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett, the other point was that the water withdrawals, people keep, I've heard that talking point that we're using less water and we're doing that. And they point to this graph that shows water withdrawals. And withdrawing water from the system is different than how much you are using. And we see the discrepancy here every day, right? If we are using less water, why do we have to expand Gross Reservoir for Denver Water? If we are using less water, why is Red Rocks Ranch selling houses without taps? We're using more water, we need more water, and we just don't have it, no matter what they promised. Yeah, that's exactly right. Did you get a microphone?
I just had I don't see those guys, yes. It's not better, okay, all right, let me get over what I need to say real quick. I just wanted to tell you there was not used to this, I'm used to going. There are 2 forums coming up. One is Sunday, March 13th, 3:30 at Lutheran Church on the Mountain. I gotta get the other way, hold on. It's at, address is 14099 West Jewel Avenue. So that's at the corner of Jewel, Bear Creek and Alameda, the go back. And that's at 3:30 p.m. And it's sponsored there. Well, I don't know who the heck is sponsoring it. It's a Ward 4 counselors. They welcome the Ward 4 counselors, David R. and Bill F. Mayor Strong, and the staff of the Lakewood Planning Department to share information about proposed zoning changes that will appear on the upcoming ballot. Bring in your questions. Isn't that the 15th? Oh, the 15th, Sunday the 15th at 3:30. One more, please. Election forum on Lakewood special election on zoning for Lakewood voters only. Sunday, March 22nd, 11:30 a.m. Lakewood United Church of the Christ, 100 Carr Street. Featured speakers include Karen Corday, Lakewood Citizens Alliance, and Sophia. Valera. Thank you. Make Lakewood livable. That one is going to be, I guess, I don't know if it's going to be a debate or whatever, so it'll be both no and yes forum. So that is 11:30 a.m. Sunday, March 22nd at the Lakewood United Church of Christ, 100 South Carr in Lakewood. That's it. And Carr. First and Carr, thank you. Did you say the Jewel one real quick again? What date? No, which one? The Jewel. The Jewel is on Sunday, March 13th. No. Oh, March 15th. 3:30 p.m. No, I can't read. It's not my dinner. Who's gonna invite me to dinner tonight?
Thank you for the information. You reminded me that we did invite Ward 4 counselors to be present tonight to give you other information or correct me if I'm wrong and that kind of thing. They declined due to the pending lawsuit, which I probably should comment on, but I find it ironic that we're suing them for not talking to us. Respond by not talking to us. We had an online comment, is Alex?
In Lord, their hand, there's 2 Alice's, so you can have them raise up.
Okay, I see, and we see one Alex with his hand up, if you would like to unmute and make a comment.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
So my name is Alex Plotkin. I have been living in Lakewood since 2012. Initially, as probably shortly thereafter, as we got here, I got involved with the Lakewood 2025 initiative. And so one of the points I wanted to make is whoever made the comment earlier that the ordinance is 400 pages and whatnot, and everybody should have read it. I would even postulate that the councilors themselves hardly read everything that the city staff brings in front of them. And here we are, well past 2025, and Lakewood has been a huge, huge disappointment when it comes to economic development. And so, to that point of families and such, I personally have to drive to DTC for better paying work, and so do tens of thousands of people who live in Lakewood. They have to drive elsewhere for work. So it's rather disingenuous to be making, family related comments or such, as people in Lakewood literally cannot find a job to, provide for their families. And Lakewood, I've been engaged with Adam Paul. I've been engaged with some of the councilors current and past. And over the years, it's kind of became pretty obvious that they say a lot of things, and yet when it comes to true citizen-oriented initiatives that would in some ways actually go against developer profit or other things, they just don't deliver. They say a lot of shit, but they hardly ever do things that actually would make families be healthier and more secure in Lakewood, or that there would be an economic base to attract more families to the areas. And as somebody had mentioned earlier, our schools are closing, but not only are they closing, then a school board goes and hands those over to Lakewood, not to be used for maker spaces, not to be used of something to be useful, a third space of some sort for our community. They hand them over, for purposes that are probably going to destroy some of the neighborhoods or even further. And then in 2018, I was also, elected to the board of directors at Green Mountain Water Sanitation District. And so somebody was making comments, related to Lakewood Informer and such. I think that as a private citizen, Director Morgan is entitled to do, well, pretty much anything she wants to. And, if you're going to be picking on, say, somebody running Lakewood Informer, then why not make comments about looking at Lakewood, which is being sent to us at our expense, without asking us whether or not we need to see that, want to see that information. And it is, often used for city propaganda, paid for by our dollars, by the way. And so for a very long time in Lakewood, there's been really no kind of independent or at least citizen-run source of, of ways of getting news about what's going on in the city. And so, if nothing else, I think that Ms. Morgan should be credited for running that and doing that at, expense to herself, to her time, and, detrimental probably to her family time as well. And so when I was on the board, we also did try to put in a lot of initiatives concerning the capacity of the district. And at the time, as Director Morgan and other directors had mentioned, there were already concerns about the capacity. And I don't think those concerns have been alleviated since, nor has ever the city of Lakewood been, somehow amicable in any of the other discussions that we've tried to have with them. So this has just been my experience, my 2 cents as, quasi-elected official or as a private citizen. So take it for what it's worth. But I do think it's at least, very rarely around here do you have a governing body such as this board, for example, who actually tries to genuinely keep the citizens and constituents' best interest at heart and do the hard things actually, to where, yes, sometimes they have to, hear unpleasant things from the city, from the developers and others, and yet they try to do what's right by most of the constituents in the district and not somebody else. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there another Alex online? Is there anybody else online who have their hands raised? I don't see any right now. Well, I want to, before I forget, I'm going to come back and do more questions, but I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to our staff for loaning us this garage. Obviously, this is not our normal meeting place. They had to clean everything up and get it all ready. So that has been something else. And Director Martinez, who brought in the sound equipment and did a test, we have been fixing everything up. So I appreciate all of everyone's efforts here tonight to make this happen. It's been interesting hearing all of your points of view. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. Comment?
I'm Marlene King, and I lived in Denver and Lakewood all my life and seen lots and lots of changes. Anyway, and I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I would encourage all of you to get on Lakewood Alliance and sign up for the signs to put in your yards. I'm getting 2 of them, and my neighbors are getting them, and I think that if we get more signs in our yard, I think it really would help. So I'm not telling you what to do, but I think it would be a good idea to, all of us here, let's get some signs and show them what we really want.
And it's not true to wait for all, and signs here also, we use sign. Thank you.
My name is Jeff. I live in Morse Park. I know as a water board, you guys can't tell your customers how to vote. But are you able to get word out to your customers, your concerns about this new zoning? Because it seems like, in my opinion, this Green Mountain area, there are a lot of people that have no idea what's going on. In Morse Park, there are signs all over the place, but when we drove through Green Mountain today, there's hardly any signs. So I think there's a lot of Green Mountain residents that have no idea that this zoning is occurring and that there's a bunch. Is there something that you guys are gonna do to just express your concerns to your customers about the zoning that could be passed?
We have taken a couple steps. As I said, Director Wendell made mention of our resolution. So we did support the vote yes. We have all this information out online. We've done a couple of meetings about this. There will also be a mailer that goes out to registered voters. Mr. Manager said that's ready to go Monday. So we are trying to get the word out. We are exactly that.
Well, they're gonna bombard us also right after this week is up, because they held back on their signs and they have plans just bombarding the neighborhoods. So be ready for that, so it's coming. They want to send out
Have flyers that we can send out.
Yes,
to
we are
our, neighbors and stuff.
we have flyers.
Okay.
There's flyers in 2 different rooms.
Okay.
Now, then you gotta take a note, we did have this meeting tonight for this reason. So that was a big plus. How many people support this type of venue and doing this type of stuff with the board? Raise your hands, please. Good, because we've had other meetings and participation with my opinion was a little lax, but I would like to see a little bit more of this going on. How many people agree with that?
Plus you brought rain, so you know.
Well, we have the facilities here now, and I like the garage venue. I think it works very, very well. And I would like to jump on board with the president here that gotta thank Josh and his staff for what they've done. You're very fortunate to have Josh and his people do the work that they do for us.
Any other comments from the board while I'm looking that way?
My name's Steve Donner, and we have understood that Lakewood does not really tell anybody about anything until it's too late. They are delinquent in their own code enforcement completely, so I'm trying to figure out who doesn't know, and that's probably most of us. We find out by the code enforcement more than anything else. And when they look over your fence, that's illegal. When they use any kind of other operation over your house, it's illegal, including drones. I was a cop for a while and I don't like what's going on, so this is not what we deserve, because the council members, I believe, now are all real estate people. And they're looking for profit, that's what they're doing.
They're good friends with builders too.
Well, it looks like we can be wrapping up here. We'll do, I appreciate everybody coming out. It has been great to hear what you are thinking. I hope we got some questions answered. Please reach back out to any of us or staff if you have additional questions on water infrastructure. Again, closing comments from anybody in here?
Just want to thank the participation tonight. It was extremely exciting to me to see you, all you showing up tonight. It made me happy. Well worth the effort. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Director Martinez. Thank you all.